Hello and welcome back for another week of vintage videos. I'm Drew Levin, and this is the blue-red Blood Moon deck that I wrote about earlier this week. Played on either Magic Online version 4 or Magic Workstation. I won't tell you until the end of the videos. But in all seriousness, I'm still figuring out how this whole thing works, and so this will be an adventure of the client for all of us as I try to figure out how to put the game log in the okay, whatever, we don't need the game log anyway. Our opening hand has 2 mana sources, some Force Wills, a Mental Misstep, and a Jace, so we're going to keep this one. Our initial plan is to try and Blood Moon them out, and we have a blue source, so we're all set on that front. But we also have a lot of resistance, should our opponent be up to some sort of fast combo strategy. For instance, we will definitely Mental Misstep this one. Duress is a pretty strong indication that they are playing some sort of combo deck. We're pretty happy Force of Willing this one. I think we want to keep Jace as opposed to another Force of Will, just because we don't have another blue card, and we have a lot of mana in the deck that we can draw. We happened to draw another blue card, but given what we knew, I think that it's better to keep something that can sort of put us in a winning position rather than another card that requires a blue card for that we aren't going to cast before we do anything. Here, if we draw any mana, then we're set. Whereas if we keep Force of Will, then we're relying on the top of our deck for both action and the mana to cast it, which isn't really a good spot to be in. So we have Gorilla Shaman, which is of, questionable value. It remains to be seen. But I'm interested in playing it for its ability to eat Moxen, and just keep our opponent low on mana so that we can interact with them a little better. I'm going to keep trying to get this onto the whatever. There's got to be... Oh, okay. So you can click on that. And can you drag it? Okay. That's how you do it. I finally figured it out on turn 2. So now we have our chat. I'm glad. We do not, however, have any of the emoticons. But whatever. So our opponent ponders, stares at their cards for a full 2 minutes, and I can't imagine... Wow. You're going to shuffle. Okay. Ponder, stare for 2 minutes, shuffle is not what I was expecting. It's also possible that we were supposed to hold Gorilla Shaman for a while and try to ambush a Mox. But I'm not convinced. I'm fine holding this Mox Pearl. Although, I guess if they're going to duress something, they probably would actually want to duress a mana source rather than either of our planeswalkers. So I don't know. So they cast Mystical Tutor, presumably getting either Dark Ritual or Cruel Bargain, depending on whichever one they're missing. They could also be getting Ancestral. The original Cruel Bargain, I suppose. Okay, so they're mysticaling for Ancestral. Which resolves. And honestly, I think I would rather have a Jason Tezzeret than a Force and a Tezzeret in this spot, since we're a mana source away from being able to get back into the game. So, Tezzeret, notable for its ability, for his ability to set up Time Vault and then just go infinite with it and nothing else. So like you tick down, if it survives and you get another turn, then you just untap it forever with Tezzeret. So we get another turn, which is awesome. We have our Jace. We are going to brainstorm and draw. So we already played a land, so this welder isn't going to do much good for us. We can Tezzeret next turn. So we don't really need Welder, and we don't want to let Tezzeret get duressed. So that sort of dictates how we want to organize our brainstorm. It is highly likely that we want Tezzeret, and it is highly unlikely that we want Goblin Welder. So they upkeep Vamp, and they've already used basically all of their good 1-mana spells, so we're going to misstep this one because I have to imagine that they're vamping for a draw spell, and that they cast Brainstorm at the end of their turn, during their turn, and then didn't shuffle, so they know what they're drawing, and it isn't good. So that is why I was interested in countering all of those reasons. So we will fetch a basic island. Cast Tezzeret. Before we do anything, brainstorm. And so we've already played a land. I think we actually just want to tick up, untap these, play Mana Crypt, and so we can either tick down and find Time Vault, and then if our opponent doesn't like bounce it or destroy it, then we can untap Time Vault and go infinite. if we untap, then we have Tezzeret ready to go ultimate next turn. And his ultimate is artifacts you control become artifact creatures with base power and toughness 5/5. So we attack him for 1, and then we attack him for 15 with our artifacts. But I guess we're losing to the same stuff that we're losing to Time Vault with. We're losing to the same sort of stuff that we're losing our Time Vault to, rather. So, going to grab Time Vault, play out our Mana Crypt, and use it to keep Gorilla Shaman mana up. And like, worst case scenario is we just destroy it with its own activated ability. Right, like we have Gorilla Shaman, so we can eat it. Okay, so we just win as long as we remember to eat our Mana Crypt. Right, 6? Okay, so we go to 2. And then yeah, so we untap our Time Vault with Tezzeret and go infinite on this angle. So, sideboarding. Here's our main deck, here's our sideboard. There's a bunch of stuff that I can't imagine that we're going to use. What's a preview pane? Nope. Okay. Sort by converted mana cost. Cool. So, why would you want to sort by rarity during sideboarding? I don't understand. Anyway, to the actual important part. We drag these over here, and what if I don't? I kind of just want to like drag these over here. I can't do that. Sort by arbitrary, I wish. Okay. Anyway. I think Jace is really good against them. I think that Blood Moon still has a good amount of value against them. It's unlikely that they aggressively fetch Swamp against what they've seen. Artifacts don't seem to be particularly essential to what they're up to, but Planeswalkers seem pretty good for us. I'm not a huge fan of Gorilla Shaman, so we're going to cut those. And we're going to cut a few moons and a spirit guide, but still keep like the ability to gamble for Blood Moon or gamble for whatever else intact. I don't love how much card disadvantage we have with Gamble and Force of Will. So, like, the redundancy of Blood Moons is a big hit. Just given how light we're drawing off the top, it might be the case that we just want more Planeswalkers in general. So. I don't know, though. I'm fine keeping this as is, and it's possible we want some cages. Ultimately, though, they just like draw a bunch of spells. They obviously have a Yawgmoth's Will somewhere, but I don't think that it's worth boarding in cage just to try to beat Will. Especially given that like Tinker for Blightsteel is probably our fastest way of killing them. So, gonna keep it as is. We can win from here. So, we're gonna submit. I hope I submitted in time. I did not submit in time. That's cool. Got a little distracted. We have no lands, but we do have 2 missteps and a Force of Will. I don't know. I'm willing to keep this. We won game 1. And I think we're going to want a good amount of counter magic, given that our deck is pretty weak. Given that we didn't sideboard. So we're going to pass the turn back and work on drawing lands in the future. Just aggressively trading resources here since there's no guarantee that we have a land on top of our deck. So we would prefer not to discard as we would have had to do. So we're discarding our Gorilla Shaman anyway. I still have no regrets about keeping this hand, for the record. Our opponent isn't really doing anything. I don't want to discard Voltaic Key. Definitely don't want to discard Soul Ring. I guess we can discard Gifts, given how high cost it is. And we can discard Blood Moon since we are a fair ways off of casting that one anyway. Alright. We can now safely discard Soul Ring. Okay. What can we do with a Black Lotus? Well, we can sacrifice it for blue. And target ourselves with Recall and try and draw land. I think that's step 1. We managed to not do that. So we're going to brainstorm for another 3 cards and miss, drawing all these Blood Moons that we didn't want in our deck. And now we have even more disruption, but we're drawing 2 dead cards. With 0 mana sources, sorry, 1 mana source in the top however many cards. I don't know. Once we draw lands, we're gonna crush. It's just that we're not going to draw lands for a bit. So we aren't really going to counter any of their mana, I don't think. I think we have to counter their draw, however. Our opponent is really going for it here. I mean, the upside of... Oh, okay. Are we dead? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And if we force one, then we still lose? Okay. Well, that's good. Let's take less time sideboarding this time. Ready? Wait. How did we... It knows exactly what we want. Yeah, okay. It would be good if it, like, just auto-submitted with a second left. But we are going to... Whatever. We're going to keep this hand. And run Island and Ponder. And actually just hit nut perfects. We would not like to shuffle our library. We hit our 2 or 3 outer. Regardless, we have a turn 1 Blood Moon with a bunch of mana in play, including a basic island. So our opponent is on Artifact Mana or Bust. That's a mountain. That's tough. That is a basic swamp. They... Can they kill us from here? Okay. I mean, we can't play Dak Faden. But once we can take their mocks. Which is sweet. Okay. So they're playing a lot of Magic, which is tough for us, because we're going to draw Jason past the turn back. And they didn't shuffle. Blech. I have to sort of assume that whatever they've got going on is real good. Since, you know, they didn't shuffle. This is a fascinating mana base that we've managed to concoct here. I don't know. Hopefully we're not dead. Like, their mana is still fairly constrained by Blood Moon. They basically need rituals to do things. And they have, like... They have to ritual into Yawgmoth's Will, but if they have ritual, then obviously it's great for them. Still, they get to play all of their blue spells and all of their black spells that, you know, aren't Cruel Bargain or Necropotence or Yawgmoth's Bargain or whatever else. Come on! Any land so that we can steal their black source. The greatest thief in the multiverse would like to steal some jewelry. Man. Sorry, greatest thief in the multiverse. Doesn't look like you'll be stealing anything today. I think. Wonder what these arrows do. Okay, we got preemptively GG'd. Oh, never mind, that was from a while ago. What was that? Yeah, okay. Ah. They GG'd us when they lost. That makes way more sense. I don't know. I could be just like super basic here, but I think that taking Dak Vaden is the only play. Like, I don't have red source, and if I have red source, then I'm definitely stealing their Mox Jet. So, I don't really know what's going on, but I guess I can hope that he is thinking about not taking Dak Vaden. Ooh, cool. So he's got a good blue spell to resolve. That's an okay blue spell. So, the greatest thief in the multiverse is gonna make an appearance. Give me that. It will be interesting to see whether or not they have, like, I don't know, a basic swamp or something, given that they didn't take Dak. Or, like, Lotus or whatever. Cool. We will go looting. Discard probably both these Jaces. What do we want to gamble for? Probably discard one of these Jaces. I'm happy gambling for recall next turn. When we can actually have a chance of keeping it. So we're going to discard this Jace and this Mox Jet. Much as it would be hilarious to have two Mox Jets in play at the same time, I'm not about it. I guess actually we can just gamble for Tinker, lose it, and then Time Walk. And then loot some more. So we were 33% to just like... We were 33% to win the game on the spot because we Tinker plus Time Walk. Well, we don't actually have blue. We don't have double blue. So we were 33%... Yeah. 66% to just like Tinker into Light Steel. So pretty easy. Discard these, play that. Pass it back. And we're misstepping literally any card that they play. Because they can just play so few cards that what they're constrained on is they are constrained on like the ability to actually cast their spells. So this misstep isn't about trading cards, it's about buying time. We're basically just buying time until we can do something like this and get ahead. So we only have one blue source. What's the best card left in our deck? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We could gamble for Welder. We run the risk of discarding Force Will, and I don't like that. And I don't want to play this land because it's not going to do us any good. So we're actually just going to stand pat exactly as is. I don't think that Mox does anything. Whereas keeping both Force Will and Mental Misstep is hugely important because now we get to counter this Tinker. Which would have gotten Jar, which draws them 7 closer to Black Lotus. Which is a huge problem for us. We're going to undo these. Loot first. Discard Gamble, discard Mountain. Cast Thirst for Knowledge. So we can either keep key or whenever I cast a spell that targets. Okay. So we can gamble for Welder and discard key here, which I think is what we want to do in a while. It's not what we're up to right now. Since we have assembled yet another Force of Will, so we are pretty interested in keeping that intact. Whereas, like, if we gamble for Welder and discard a blue card, and we play Welder, and then they, like, draw something that can kill us, we're going to feel rotten. So this is a pretty safe thing to cast right now. So we get Lotus, Welder, Time Vault, and I guess it's like Lotus, Sapphire, Island, Tezzeret. And no matter what, we get a blue source. And we either get a Tezzeret that... Okay. So now we get to loot first and figure out whether we can afford to play Jace. Discard this and that. And we still have our Force and Jace up. And at this point we're like really close to being able to just kill them with Vault Key. Oh, we drew Time Vault. So much for all of that noise. Weldon Key. Untap Vault. And get GG'd. And we are the proud new owners of one Vintage Masters booster pack. I guess it turns out turn 1 Blood Moon still quite good. Or, oh no, we lost that game. Whatever. Blood Moon's still real good. I'll be back in a sec.